close on the subject. Moving on, let's take a look at the other big development that we're tracking for you. The United States of America is considering imposing new restrictions on Iranian delegation ahead of the United Nations General Assembly, which begins on 22nd of September. These measures could limit the ability of the Iranian diplomats to travel freely in New York, including potential restrictions on the shopping at large wholesale stores. This move comes after the Trump administration had imposed sanctions on the Palestinian Liberation Organization president to travel to New York to participate in the UNGA 2025 later this month. There were protests that had been raised by the Palestinian president with regards to this crackdown by the Trump administration. Joining me on the telecast is Gedalia Bloom. He's a Middle East affairs expert. He's joining me from Israel. Let's hear it from you. What is your perspective on this imposition of sanctions, not visa restrictions, not allowing? Initially, it was the Palestinian president on whom sanctions have been imposed. And now we understand that there are fresh sanctions, fresh restrictions that have been imposed on Iranian delegates to participate in the UNGA that happens later this month.
Well, so the benefit of the United States having the UN on its own soil is that they get to pick and choose who comes in and who doesn't. And while they're being very open and allowing enemy states like Iran to enter into the United States on visas, certainly that doesn't come with a blank check to be able to go around the streets of New York City and go shopping, as you mentioned before. And so I think that's in every right of the Trump administration, the federal government, to be able to determine who is able to walk freely in the streets and who is not. And I think any restrictions should have common sense behind it, and I think that they do. You're dealing with the Iranian regime, who is essentially responsible for funding many arms of terror throughout the Middle East. One of them being Mahmoud Abbas, who is also being sanctioned, who spends, I believe, up to $400 million a year from his budget, a lot of it coming from the international community, to what they call pay for slay, where you have terrorists in Israeli prisons who are getting paid every single month a monthly stipend for killing Jews. This rewards them. It also creates more incentives for others who haven't yet killed a Jew to be able to make a lot more money than they would be sitting in jail than they would be if they got a job.
Right, absolutely. What do you also make of, the Israeli Defense Forces have now released a statement that they are in control of 40% of Gaza. There has been a continuous effort by the military forces led by Prime Minister Netanyahu to uproot Palestinians and shift them to other countries, other regions. It has witnessed a backlash from countries across the globe, leaders from across the globe, whether it's France, Germany, United Kingdom, Canada, Australia. How do you think this is going to pan out, and what is the end goal of the Netanyahu government, if at all the Palestinians are removed from the Gaza Strip?
Well, number one, I don't necessarily agree with your terminology being the civilians being uprooted from Gaza City. In fact, the evacuation orders had been set, and they're being sent again today. In fact, and Hamas's reaction to these evacuation orders is by setting up roadblocks, not allowing their civilians to leave, telling their own people that they should not leave. So while the world is condemning Israel for setting up humanitarian zones or at least opportunities for civilians to leave a battlefield, Hamas is keeping them in. Unfortunately, the international community is in line, in cahoots with Hamas in wanting to see civilians being used as human shields. And while Israel is trying to get them out of harm's way, we're being accused of ethnic cleansing while Hamas is essentially the international community does not condemn Hamas. They don't scrutinize them, and they don't even ask basic questions. Why are they telling people not to leave, and why are they beating their own people in the streets if they are to leave? And there's been reports on the ground that families are actually jumping out or exiting out of their apartment windows down alleyways in order to avoid these roadblocks from Hamas.
Right. All right. Thank you very much for sharing your views on the matter.